Yeah. So ready yourself, steady yourself. So don't move around too much, or else the camera moves. Yeah.
What do you mean? I can move around as much as I want.
Yeah, but I mean, don't.
That is disturbing.
It's not. Wow, you're really putting Tim Apple to the test. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of 0K, the podcast where we discuss the future of Urbit with some of the guys building this operating system for the next 500 years. Today we have mastyr-bottec, nay Matt Levan. Let's just, use the name here. Matt has been working on Urbit for a pretty decent amount of time, or been involved with the project for a pretty decent amount of time. And most recently has done a lot of work on the runtime and the event log system, which he's going to talk to us about a little bit more. So, and then we're going to, at the end, we've been having a sort of I want to say debate / wrestling, intellectual wrestling match about the new Apple VR thing. So I think mastyr-bottec wants to ambush me with some takes on that. So we can do that at the end. But welcome to the podcast,
welcome,
Master. And
thanks.
Yeah, it's good to have you here finally.
Yeah.
So we're starting with everybody. We're starting the same thing. Like, walk us through you're born, right? Okay, and then a whole bunch of uneventful stuff happens in your life, and then you find out about Urbit, and then it changes, right? So, like, just kind of walk us through that.
The true beginning.
The true beginning.
Be
birth.
you.
No, oddly enough, that's crazy because I was thinking more about how I got into Urbit and stuff like this. And I do have to give a little bit of a quick rundown on the before. Basically, I grew up in Southern California, and then I went and I was like a hippie for a good amount of time. Living up in Northern California, I went to school at Humboldt State, where all the redwoods are, all the way at the top.
You have the hippie cred then.
Yeah. My hair was down to here. It was like
majoring in hacky sack, the whole thing.
Majoring hacky sack. I like to call it my 4-year vacation with a few essays in between.
Yeah.
And then, but I came back home. I was like, I can't do anything because I studied like comparative religions.
You compare religions.
Not very useful.
I just imagine one of those grids where they're trying to sell you thing on a website, and it's like the green check boxes and the red X's, and you could just compare religions, kind of like NerdWallet does.
So literally, the state university website tagline for the department, for the major, was "The sky's the limit." Like, what can you do with this? The sky's the limit. Right.
Like, I will not.
They're like, we don't really know, so
ended up being true, and we're heading to Mars now, so
it's true.
Pretty cool.
Out. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, anyways, I had to come back, and after a trip to India, I kind of got my head straight. I was there for 6 months. That's why I was noticing.
That's where you got your head straight. Interesting.
I got my head straight because it's like, whoa, this is like a third world. Like, this place is a lot different. Because they hype it up in California, man. That's hyped, fully hyped. Yeah. Anyways, and then I went back to school for computer science. Somehow they willing to accept me for a master's in computer science after that.
I like the idea that you were scared straight by India, though. That's a pretty...
Yeah, he said no way. It's
Look,
computers.
Indians are nice, and don't get me wrong, the people are very genuine as far as my experience went, but when you lack basic civilizational infrastructure like sewage, garbage collection, etc., traffic systems, life's
there are downsides is what you're saying.
Yes. Okay. So and then I was in Southern California for my master's, and
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you studied comparative religion in college, and then you went to computer science, but you didn't really tell us anything about what's your connection to computers.
Oh yeah. So I grew up. My dad is an embedded software engineer in the aerospace industry. So C programmer. and yeah, so I grew up around computers and stuff.
He didn't mention this point, but we grew up basically in the same place, and that area of Southern
Yes.
California is very deep. Like everyone's dad's an engineer, basically, or was during that
Yes.
time,
Yes.
and worked like on satellites and things of that nature. So it's like
Yes.
it was totally part of the culture.
Well, it's beautiful
But
because Southern California
yeah,
has Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, all these major defense contractor companies that building everything from airplanes to rockets and missiles and et cetera, et cetera.
tools of civilization, in other words.
The finest.
Yeah, the finest.
So yeah, yeah. No.
So you went back to school. You went back to school.
Yeah, and I had to do a bunch of leveling courses to like get the basic math and stuff for CS and once again, last episode I was just listening to the episode you guys just did with Ted. Um, you say something like, uh, "You never know what's going to happen when you post,"
That's
right?
true. Yeah.
And yeah, that's literally I was just like scrolling, the orange site in class during class, like as during my last year of my master's degree, and just rabbit holed hard on it. And then I ended up just devouring as much as I could about Urbit, and then reading the white paper, and then emailing Tlon, seeing if they would help me out to figure out if I could do a master's project. So I did, and it's kind of actually the thing I was working on there. I mean, I could go into that because there's something.
Wait, so hold on.
there.
So just to be clear, you
But-
did your master's project for your master's on Urbit.
Yeah,
Is that published somewhere? Do you know? Or is that public anymore?
yeah, it could be in the archives of the university.
Yeah, it's like in the basement. But it's just funny because this is totally just a conversation we've been having because like trying to get the Urbit Wikipedia edited is like this epochal, like just two big words, epochal and Sisyphean task. Both of these things. And it's like, because there's like
I'm gonna
some
look that one up.
Wikipedia editors that are just like hate Urbit for like the depth of their, and they just sit there and you try to be like, Urbit's an operating system, like, dubious site needed. You know, it's like,
Operating
it's terrible.
function, actually.
It's like citation, please. Urbit exists, citation, and so it's sort of we've been like, oh, we need more like academic. We need PDFs, to prove this. It's like, this is how we do it. Proof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so you were like in the emails, you were emailing Tlon, which meant like basically you're emailing Galen, or
Whoa.
back in the day it was nobody, it was Keaton and Galen and
Who
Gerdish
was
Jarvis.
the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, yeah, cool. Just come up. So I drove my truck up there, fall of 2017. This must have been after you and I met, though.
I think so.
I think. Yeah, because
Yeah.
the first Urbit meetup I ever went to was in Long Beach, California, at some guy's house. I forget who that guy was, but
Isaac Simpson,
And,
who now goes by Disgrace Propaganda, he's still around. He's still
okay. And then it was like, what do you know? There's a big, cheerful, like Hispanic-looking Hawaiian shirt, sandal wearing, barbecue grilling, apron wearing dude who's having a jovial time, and it was you.
the grilling is central
Dude.
to the whole Urbit mythos, actually.
I mean, I have pictures of that meetup. It was pretty. That was. a good-
Palfin Fosslop was there, I think.
Yeah.
Also.
Mark was there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and Keaton, and I don't really remember anybody else.
There's a few characters that are still around. From that.
Yeah. So, yeah. From there, then I was up in the Tlon offices, and that was like the real moment that sunk in. Like, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. Urbit is brilliant. Like, because I met more of the smartest people like I had ever met in my life in one room in the Toulon offices. And I was there for like 1 week. And that was the same week that they invited Master Morazad to come and like, do some work there.
AKA yell in the kitchen.
I was just gonna say that's when things got loud.
Yeah.
Me and Master Morazad in the same office is like an audio. It's like a hazard. Sorry, I apologize.
So yeah, and yeah, and then I was kind of like lots of people say, like I kind of went about living my life after finishing that semester. I mean, I was generously granted some addresses, and held on to those and paid taxes.
But you did more work. You went and got more like embedded systems, like.
Well, I worked at Honeywell Aerospace out of college, but I mean, talking about the birth thing, that's what's crazy about Urbit for me. Like, Urbit has been wrapped up with my whole professional career, like before I even started my professional career. So it's like I haven't been working on it full time for all that time, but it's coming up on the majority now because I've only really been working full time for like, what was it, 2023? I started 2018 January. Okay, yeah. So I like one more year, and then I'll have been working on Urbit longer than anything else in my entire professional career.
Yeah.
Which is,
I think about that sometimes. Like, it's just like, yeah. I mean, because I'm similar thing. I also spent a lot of my youth studying comparative literature, so I can compare literature. Religion's not really my expertise.
There's related literature.
Right. But it's like so much, so much of my professional time has been working on Urbit. It's just like a funny thing, because it's like you see people that for whom I think it's like a binary distribution. Like have you heard of it at all, or like has it consumed most of your life? So there's very few people that actually are just like, spent some time on it and then went to go write some JavaScript. I guess it happens, but it's like I guess you just don't ever meet them, hear them. So. But you recently have been working at the foundation. So now you're Urbit full time, all the time. And so what I really want to talk about is kind of what you've been working on since you've been at the foundation. Since you've been like full time, you're not working, neglecting your wife and children to work on Urbit. I mean, you do that, and so what I want to know is kind of like walk us through the stuff that you were working on that you kind of transitioned to the foundation.
Okay, like right before.
Yeah, because I think it kind of leads into it, right? You were doing some source stuff that kind of got brought on.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess the big research project that I was working on before working for the foundation was called Seguro and Armada, which were like a pair of technologies that Wex and I thought would make bare metal Urbit hosting possible. Okay, so it was like Seguro is like secure or safe in Spanish, and then Armada is like a fleet of naval ships, right?
And so can you just, for everyone's edification, explain the difference between like bare metal hosting and kind of what happens now, like how people actually host ships right now?
That's a good question because a lot of kind of my side focus is in and out in the hosting world. Like I would like to see hosting really just like vamped up so that it's just easier for any star owner to run a small hosting platform for their planets and stuff, But most, I think, hosting platforms are running on cloud platforms, which is like, very reasonable, very manageable. And
such as Google GCP, or Amazon,
DigitalOcean, AWS,
Azure.
And,
sorry,
Azure. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's on there, but so bare metal hosting would be, I'm actually running these Urbit chips on my own infrastructure, on my own servers that I own, and maybe I rent out, space at a colo where,
Colo.
we
So
get
okay, so
networking power.
just let me just restate what you said and tell me if it's wrong, basically. So what a cloud host does though is
Mhm.
there's like a layer of software that makes it so that like the software that you're nominally running, like Urbit,
Mhm.
actually runs on top of software that it's, and then how that stuff is like what machine it goes on and the network connections and all that stuff is kind of like abstracted away. So it's sort of like, but the problem with that is what? Like, because that actually sounds kind of convenient. So why is there a problem with GCP
Well, they are
and
very
AWS? I mean,
good.
this all this stuff.
So like all this stuff is running on Kubernetes, right? Most of I think the biggest, like most scaled Urbit hosting platforms are running on Kubernetes clusters, which
Yeah.
is like, a common corporate, deployment strategy for, apps, services and stuff.
Kubernetes
Um,
being one of these software platforms that does this abstraction layer, right? And
yeah,
orchestrates things.
originally called Borg by Google, which because it was from a research project. It was an internal system at Google that they used to basically distribute software services across machines with
For
Docker
their own stuff, I'm
containers
assuming.
for their own
Yeah.
stuff,
Okay. Yeah.
And then, of course, like the best business model is to take your internal thing and then open source it, make it public, and make everybody else in the world basically learn
Rely on it.
learn
Yeah.
your system. It's
Yeah.
like brilliant. It's like the best way to train potential engineers that could work on your stuff. It's
Yeah.
like get them to learn all your stuff because it's the de facto standard. Anyways, so the problem with it is quite complex. It's extremely complex. Like administering a cluster, a Kubernetes cluster that you can run Urbit ships on is immensely, like it takes an immense amount of managerial overhead, you know.
Yeah.
Not to mention you're not, you don't own the full stack, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
And we
So you can get pulled. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, at the
I
end of the
mean,
day, if GCP doesn't like you, you get off, right?
yeah,
or even if that's not the case, you're still just dependent on some other,
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't
corporate
have to be for some like
schmuck. Yeah.
spicy reason. It's just like it goes out of
No.
business or it gets
Hmm.
acquired or something like that, or it changes.
like Urbit makes it really easy to be a cockroach though, because they could stamp your foot, but since we've got pure functional server, like we just shut it down, zip it up, ship it somewhere else, and boot it up again.
Yeah. If
So,
that was your main concern, yeah, you could definitely just move it between GCP. But I think what's interesting is like, I mean, and many people probably have not had this pleasure, but like if you go and look at the documentation for like actually everything you can do on these platforms, it's insane.
hmm
It's like the documentation, it's like reading the documentation is a job unto itself. And
yeah,
so it's sort of like one argument is that, you know, because it is such a general purpose thing, you have to overlearn and over engineer things, right? Because really you're only trying to
hmm
run one program, which is Urbit. You're not trying to like
yeah,
run a zillion programs. You're trying to like
yeah,
run one Urbit and configure it, right? So that's another, it's simpler
it's
as well,
true.
potentially.
Yeah. But anyways, lots of people interested in Urbit are rightfully interested in, self-hosting and, kind of like, cypherpunk style
Yeah. It's part of the story. It's
situations.
part of the
So
narrative.
I
Yeah.
was just talking to one of my friends this morning. Hey, could we, maybe run some hosting platform our own metal here? Because I got a little data center room right over there. I could install racks of native planets. Heck,
Yeah.
be great.
Seguro, explain how Seguro and Armada kind of
Oh
fit in
yeah,
that
right.
vision.
Yeah, so Seguro is meant to be an event log replication.
Okay.
So basically, every Urbit ship has its own event log, which is just a file that keeps all of the events that your Urbit hears in, a key value database. And but it's a single node, right? So it's like if you lose that file, then it's not good.
It's over.
Yeah, I mean, you're still fine if you have your snapshot, because the way the Urbit hears events and then
Yeah, so I was gonna say walk people through like just
yeah,
the high level, like what is the structure of the event log, like not at
okay,
like a theoretical level, but actually what is it, and where is it, and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah, cool. So every Urbit ship is a folder, right, on your computer. Usually it's named after your ID, so it's going to be for me mastyr-bottec, Razlet 10 or Poldek. Inside that folder, if you show the hidden files, you're gonna like LSA or whatever. You're gonna see a .urb. What else? .bin, where like binaries are stored, and then in the .urb folder, there's like a chk checkpoint folder for snapshots, and then a log folder for your event log. Inside of the event log, you've got a data.mdb file. So this is a Lightning memory mapped database file, which is it's a key value store. It's really fast. It's like as fast as a memory database, but it's just like inside of that file, there are two schemas or tables, or kind of like tables or schemas. The first one is the events. It's called events, and it's just key value pairs where the keys are, 1, 2, 3, 4, up until whatever event you're on. And then the values are jammed nouns, which are, Urbit datas.
Internal data representation.
Mm-hmm. Of what the event is. So your Urbit computes those events. It computes and then commits those events to that log. And then once those events are committed, or once the event is committed, then side effects are released by Ver, the interpreter.
Yeah. So one thing I want to, I mean, it's funny that the prehistory of this system. So now it's a little database,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is essentially a list of events, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the indices, but it's a list of events, right?
Yep.
But before, it was literally just a flat file. Do you remember this?
Oh no,
And it
I
was
wasn't.
literally it was like just a file write. You just wrote
Oh,
all the events to the file system.
okay.
And it's interesting though, because this system sounds almost like trivially, I mean, from the outside, you're like, okay, duh, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that event log is the source of truth.
Yes.
And if anything goes wrong in writing it, you're effed. To use it's a family show, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like so really the whole mechanism of like making sure that an event is written before you proceed is a lot of like, you got to really make sure that that's done correctly.
Right.
And there's a lot of like making a computer. I mean, this is actually one of those things where like, you think it's simple, but it's really not. On a computer, to actually know that something has been written is difficult, right? Because you really don't want to mess this up. So there's a lot of stuff related just making that clean and making sure it's not going to get corrupted. And so we switch to a database because it's like that's really what databases are for, is these guarantees,
Yes.
So a lot of that stuff has to do with just like, yeah, go ahead.
Seguro wants to take the sort of risk of having one file that stores all of your events and basically say, hey, let's swap out LMDB and use another database technology. In this case, we thought, Apple's Foundation DB, which is a distributed key value, actually multi-data model, but for the key value store that's distributed, and that's like the heart of CloudKit. So it's like everything that they build is basically using this Foundation DB, which is an open source thing, but it's extremely fast. You still get ACID guarantees, which is like a database acronym.
What does ACID stand for?
Atomic, consistent, isolated, and durable.
Okay, I need to put you on the spot. I was like literally just remind me.
I was like, oh shoot.
Oh, yeah, sweating. No. I swear to God, I'm an engineer.
Yeah.
But so just to be clear though, it's distributed in that one of the good things about that is you can have a copy in a whole bunch of different locations, and if one server gets hit by are they meteors or asteroids?
Exactly.
This cosmic rays.
Yes.
Then you have another copy, which right now if you run it on your laptop, very common. People are like, oh, my laptop got corrupted. My ship is gone,
Yeah.
and so we wouldn't have that problem.
In fact, I literally just messed my ship up earlier today, and my event logs messed up, so I have to breach.
Yeah, just corrupt. But so it's actually like, it's the corrupt the event log is actually a very big problem.
Yeah,
it's one of the few like unrecoverable problems actually, because if you have a good event log in Urbit, you can replay it. It'll take a long time, but you can replay your whole life history basically.
Yeah.
But if there's some flaw in it, that's when it's a problem, right? So Seguro would provide the ability to distribute that across multiple locations, right? And then what would Armada do?
And then Armada was related to that. It's actually kind of the spiritual successor to Armada is Pyro. I don't know if Datchus talked about Pyro when he was on here, right?
Did he do? Yeah, he talked about Pyro. So the Datchus Tipperl episode, he talks about basically virtualization.
Urbit native virtualization. So we want to be able to run real ships as virtual ships within a ship.
But yours was specifically for hosting, right? Or that was the use case you were thinking about.
Yes.
And so what would be the benefit of that? Just to be clear.
So that was one approach, That was one approach to basically consolidating a ship's memory footprint or like a fleet of ships' memory footprint into like a single loom somehow. Ooh. Yeah. So that's the idea, is basically like, because we have this guarantee already within each ship. And Ted Rovness has talked about this at Assembly last year, actually. There's a really good clip if you're interested in learning about structural sharing within the loom that is provided or sort of like enabled by the properties of knock. Look that up. I think it was the core developer panel. It's on YouTube. Yeah. And basically towards the end, somebody asks, hey, hasn't Urbit sort of like solved some like really deep computer science problems that have existed for like 50 plus years and like the whole history? Like, didn't Urbit? Oh, right. Yeah, actually, we should publish this.
As a YouTube clip that no one watches.
That question kind of sounds like a plant, actually.
I mean,
are you or aren't you the greatest lever to ever live?
Right? It was like, so that thing was like dynamic versus static linking in programs. And so because of how knock is structured, we basically means that there's like we get the benefits of both. And so it was sort of extending that to a whole fleet of ships rather than just each one. Why can't they all share the nouns?
And then the other thing is that, when you host ships, all the difficulty is in the layer between the Unix and the process, the Urbit process, and that kind of border. And so a lot of what we're doing as a cloud provider or like a hosting provider is doing all this kind of like, I don't know what it's like, it's almost like the application is a black box to you, and you're kind of like poking it, trying to say, is it okay? Because you also want to like inspect it. There's all kinds of other problems, right? And so there's a lot of difficulties there. That's like most of what the cloud Urbit business is.
Load balancing, physical volume.
And so if they were all happening in Urbit, there would be one less layer of kind of like misdirection, I guess, is part of the option. Good point. Yeah. Part of the idea.
I think so. Yeah.
So there you go.
So anyways.
But so Datchus has kind of picked up a lot of stuff. I mean, so it's pretty cool. Actually, it's kind of keeping going.
I still want to finish building those out.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to take some time and make Pyro work for the Armada use case for sure. So basically you were working on that stuff, and then you came over to the foundation to work full time. And since then, you've also been doing like event log stuff, not exclusively, but also event
Hmm.
log stuff. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So in February, I think it was January or February, I started working on event log truncation,
Mm.
which was like a long running sort of initiative, um, tied up with a lot of other major initiatives that ended up kind of just getting tabled. And so it was great for me because I came in and I think Ted and Josh were like, let's just do this dumbest way possible. I was like,
Always the best way.
that's right up my alley. So I just sort of learned me a var, learned me a event log, and yeah, so chop is like uh, that's my claim to fame. I named that one.
I know. I was going to say that's an excellent
Oh
four letter
yeah.
word. Perfect. And
So
so explain what happened before Chop, because this is also one of those things where I'm like, maybe these youngins don't remember the pre-Chop era. Explain
okay.
about how big these things would get.
So apparently, actually, you might know better than I do, Karina. Z- you know, Urbits receive tons and tons of events like all the time. And as you mentioned in the last episode, anytime anybody wanted to read something off your Urbit, that's a write to your event log. Um, so if I'm not wrong, Zod had grown to quite a healthy size for its event log. Um,
Unspeakable
I
size.
I think,
You imagine like so yeah. So I mean like the event logs. Oh, cool. Sounds great, right? Beginning of
yeah,
time. It's like no, because it's like if you have Zod, which has existed now, been running consistently for like several years, right? And
yeah,
hasn't been breached in a long time.
it's
And
impressive.
so it's like you begin to have these event logs that are like bigger. It's like I imagine like a goldfish that you keep feeding it and it breaks the. It's that's kind of what the event logs would be. Or I'm trying to like or worse than that, something like a SCOBY, like a you used to be a hippie. You'll know about SCOBYs,
Oh
like a
yeah,
kombucha
gotta
SCOBY. It's
get
like
your
you know
kombucha mother.
exactly you
That,
have a
that
mother. You keep feeding it and it just like
the
grows.
mother.
It's like a oil barrel and it's like overflowing with SCOBY. That's
Yeah,
what Zod. That's always how I visit
that's what Zod
Zod's
is.
event log.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
Chop allowed you to basically like truncate, literally make that smaller, so it's not growing forever.
Yeah, and the reason why you can do
Why is
that
that
is because,
hard? I think that's actually
well,
the better question. Why is that even like? Why?
it's
What's hard about
because
that?
you were
What
talking
was hard?
about how the event log is like your source of truth, right? Like it's important that you have these so that you, if something happens to your ship and you're in a bad state, you're a corrupt state or something, that you can replay those events to come back to a good state. But if you don't have your events, then what? How is this even a benefit? So it's like not the event log isn't really the only source of truth for an Urbit ship.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's the
There's a third secret thing.
it's the snapshot. It's your state, right? It's
Yeah. So explain
the
the snapshot. Explain the snapshot system.
yeah. So the snapshot by default, a snapshot gets taken like every few minutes, I think by default. And in your same peer in the .urb, you'll see a chk folder, and inside there, there's a north and a south .bin file. Uh, and these are memory images of your loom.
Okay.
So it's basically your Urbit state, um, just written to disk as sort of, and so that's why actually, because remember, Urbit's a pure function. So it's like,
I
wait,
remember.
it's a pure function. So why don't we have to, when we start up our ship after shutting it down, why doesn't it have to play all those events again? Right? It's because it loads a snapshot.
And then it
So
replays from the latest snapshot, basically.
yeah. Hmm. And so if you have that and you know it's good, then you can chop off your events. And as far as I'm aware, many young men are chopping their event logs as we speak today.
That's a sensation sweeping the nation.
Yes.
Um. So okay. So and so the hard part right there is just doing it in a way that you're not essentially like getting rid of the lifeboats on your boat. you're like,
Yeah.
you got to make sure it's actually correct to do so.
Yeah. And so that's sort of what the work for building Chop went into. It's like
Got it.
making sure, hey, if somebody chops and they don't have an up-to-date snapshot, tell them, hey, chill. Like you gotta, you're not going to want to do this right now. Doesn't let
Stop chopping.
Stop
That actually
chopping.
sounds incredibly
Stop, chop, and roll.
complex. Was it?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems really difficult.
That's good to hear.
Am I wrong?
Well, because there's two sides of it. It's like, we'll just chop it off. Just like it's like a spreadsheet. Just select the ones and just delete. Like, don't be weird about it. And of course, if you think about it for a little while, like, oh, actually, that's being sure. That's the hard part, right?
Okay, well, here's the difference. Because, Fan Fun Mockbud, Peter McAvoy of Tlon engineering fame. He's a very talented engineer. And then, other engineers worked on the Mars-Earth split, which is another binary-related thing. But as part of that, the event log truncation was built summer of last year. And it was way more advanced than Chop. It was like Chop actually, if your ship's running, it shuts it down for you. Like it only works offline. So it's called offline event log truncation. And so like the one that he built was online event log truncation. So you can literally chop your event log while you're running.
Wow.
So like for hosted ships and stuff, is like uptime guarantees and stuff is maintained with that. And it is very, I think if Mars Earth would have went through, which I guess it even could have, the more I talk with Master Morzad, he's like, actually, I think there wasn't anything wrong with that, but that's a whole nother discussion.
We just forgot about it.
No, it was like unrelated memory corruption issues ended up.
Yeah.
So anyways, providentially, it didn't work out. So, like it's way more complex when you bring the online factor. But, Chop took me, I think, 8 weeks. Or maybe it was 4. It was fast.
That was like the part of the job where you get hired, you do a whole bunch of amazing stuff, and then you do nothing for the rest of your
Yeah. Everyone remembers Chop.
Everyone remembers Chop. But okay, we can't fire that guy. He did Chop. That's
what they'll put on my headstone.
Chop man.
He did Chop.
Chop.
Okay, so what's the epoch system then? Because that's the other thing I've heard about related to this event log stuff.
Yeah, so that was kind of a natural extension to at least like my familiarity with the part of the system, the event log related part of the system. So the epoch system takes that same log folder inside of your peer and splits it into epochs. So like right now, everybody has a single data.mdb file that stores their entire event log that may or may not have been chopped, but it's just one file, right? It's like one list of events, which is fine and has, gotten us quite a distance. But it actually made implementing Chop a little harder. Mm-hmm. And it also, so I guess we have like long-standing sort of bugs that appear at various times as we progress in like Urbit's freezing process. And one of those major problems is called jet mismatch, which may have been discussed on previous episodes or not.
No, I haven't done a jet one yet. But everyone who's booted a ship has seen
booting the jets, So I'm not an expert, and I'm sure people could explain it better than I can, but best of my understanding, a jet mismatch is essentially when I guess, should I describe jets real quick?
Nah, I think
everyone knows jets.
It merits its entire thing.
Yeah, right.
Leave them wanting like shit.
We are boiling the ocean after all.
I gotta subscribe.
From first principles.
Tune back in.
I got a tune back. I'm never gonna find out what
Yeah,
jets were. Dun dun dun. That's it. Sorry. As you
Look it up,
okay,
kids.
epoch system jets.
So epoch system, essentially, it's a new format for your event log on disk that makes it easier to do things like event log truncation and fixing jet mismatches.
So what's
Okay,
I think
so-
funny as someone is like so many of these. The thing about Urbit is it's supposed to be done, right? So you have like these questions that come up where it's like we can't do that this many times. So how does it have to work so that it'll basically be done or be closer to being done? And so you have sort of like long ranging I mean, I've been hearing about this probably my entire Urbit career, such as it is. And it's like when it comes down to you're basically talking about like a file format, like, you know, basically a directory format, you know, which just seems like so like, wait, people talk about it like it's like you're like launching a rocket into space. Like really what you're doing is like going in the repo, changing some directories around, and then making a whole bunch of code that knows where the directories are, and then not messing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like it's a funny thing that it comes down to something so straightforward.
Yeah, so like now with the epoch system, and hopefully we'll ship this certainly before the end of the month. But so it takes that log folder and your data.mdb file will be gone. And instead you'll have a list of folders within the log that have pat UI names. So like 0i 100 and basically named after the event that starts the epoch.
Better remember
So
which
it's
I
forget. I was never good with this.
Whoops.
They're chunks of events. So each one of these folders has its own event log, which is, you know, a little slice, a little epoch, a little chunk of the total event log, but also a snapshot. This is the crucial
This also
part.
strikes me as the thing where it's like another thing, very Urbit thing where it's like, okay, what we want to do is actually simpler. And the hard thing is getting from where everyone is now to that thing and migrating everybody's state, right? Because this is the thing, is like we have to maintain continuity.
Yes.
And so you have to have everybody that exists in the current system somehow smoothly upgraded this system with zero loss. So it actually is like
so it's a migration.
It is like launching a rocket in some ways, because it's like you
and this is the first like migration I've written for Urbit, I guess. So that was all the work was like guarantee that the migration is safe in all the different cases.
Someone starts a ship
your
from
snapshot's corrupt. What happens?
Version 0. It's like it has to work. And that thing is really hard actually, because there's always some person who boots up and like, Urbit's broken. It's like you haven't used it in 7 years, and it has to like go through every single thing.
Yeah,
and that's why you just gotta give it a minute.
Fresh, man. You know? I mean, shoot.
It's time
you gotta
traveling.
give it a minute.
Your ship is time traveling right now.
So yeah, that's pretty much the epoch system. I mean,
it's good.
That's
cool.
Good.
So I'm sorry, my camera keeps going out of focus, and it's like, I don't know if you guys can see. This is why I'm rocking back and forward. For those of you at home, I have this sort of like
modern
wooziness, which adds to the disorientation of my normally impeccable takes.
Well, you need to upgrade, dude.
Also, okay, for people at home,
see that
mastyr-bottec has some like face tracking software.
Makes me
kind of make you slightly seasick.
Sorry.
Anyway, okay, it's actually a segue. It's a perfect segue. Behold the perfect segue.
Yeah. Yes.
So when the Apple scuba goggles came out, okay, everyone decided that Anthony was going to hate this, and was like literally texting me, trying to like egg me into having an argument about it, and they're like sending me,
Anthony, you Luddite, you
I literally had
Luddite.
people that were just imputing these arguments to me. I do hate it, but I mean, it's just funny that they're like,
including me.
It's just funny that the's a reaction where
no, I came to you and I was like, well, let me
segue. So mastyr-bottec was one of these guys who texted me that was essentially like, don't you hate this? And I was like, and so I wanted to, we haven't talked about it. So I figured, but you have thought a lot about working on Urbit in the sort of grand, like I said, in the broadest sense, like remote work, where, in office, out of office, DevX, like just sort of like how you work and work on Urbit specifically.
Yep.
So I wanted to hear can you VR pill me and Roslet, who I know is very VR pilled already.
Yes.
And so can you just
nice,
extreme
good to hear.
VR pill her? I want to hear
Nice.
I want to hear your pitch.
I will. So the first thing to understand is that AR and VR dead on arrival, man. Dead on arrival.
I thought you were pro.
AR VR is dead. This is spatial computing.
Okay. What's that?
It's
Tim
good
Apple?
for hand
No,
wavers.
He's waving his hands.
Good for hand wavers.
Okay, good.
That's you.
I am a hand waver. That's true.
Yeah, you do it all the time. It's a good quality to have. It's expressive.
True.
It's almost like an Italian thing.
I'm
But anyways,
conquering space with my hands when I wave them.
Good.
Okay, so spatial computing. What is that? Why do I need that?
Well, so the gist of it is that Apple knows how to nail human-computer interaction innovations. They have done it for a long time since the first desktop computers.
Source, please.
They did the mouse. Maybe Xerox did the mouse, and then Apple made it actually good. But that's the thing. That's what Apple does.
Okay, so they're good at it.
They see the landscape, and every development in computer technology has always been tied to a specific innovation in human-computer interaction.
With that, I agree. I agree with you.
So it started with the mouse, the keyboard. Well, the mouse made it accessible, and then people bought Apple IIs for their home. And then fast forward, iPhone. That was, there was Palm Pilot. There was BlackBerry. That stuff was out there. Why didn't people do it? It was only like business. Oh, I got a BlackBerry for business. I got a pager.
You should not speak ill of the BlackBerry.
If you were Gordon Gecko, if you had a Gordon, BlackBerry,
I still have
BlackBerry.
It was cool. People are still mad at BlackBerry, according to my friend who runs a mobile service.
They're
company.
mad, because they can't have one because they feel FOMO'd.
Because they went away.
Because BlackBerry was notorious for very almost rude business relationships. Because they were the king of mobile, right? Yeah. So
Tim
they
Apple,
made it so hard to just so
I'm
anyways.
Steve BlackBerry? No, what
but
would be
so
his name? I don't know. Omar BlackBerry.
But Apple, I think they patented multi-touch gesture. And this pinch to zoom, swipe to scroll, like a keyboard that you can actually use.
This is an Apple argument. This isn't a VR argument. This is like Apple's dope. But I'm like, I agree that Apple did all that stuff. But I'm like,
come on. Entertain me. We're still going.
I'm not going to let you gloss over the Apple Watch either.
So that's how they got the iPhone. That's how they did the iPhone. The iPad is kind of just an iteration of multi-touch gesture. And then,
Apple Watch,
Facebook, Steam. Oh yeah. Don't forget. Shoot, I forgot about that. Wow, look, you're a steel man.
No, I'm submitting your argument, bro, because I'm saying the Apple Watch sucks and didn't revolutionize anything. But anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Doesn't matter because it's on everyone's wrist, including your grandma's.
That's true. Not my grandma.
And if she falls down, you'll get life alert.
Okay.
It's good.
All right.
Anyways, so that was that. And then this is the trippy part. This is the sweet part. And I want Urbit to be able to run as low latency real-time signal processing as the Apple Vision Pro.
That's a big ask.
Because this thing is decked out in sensors. It's got 4 cameras on the outside, 2 outside facing screens so they can project the video of your eyeballs from the inside on the outside and make it look like your eyeballs are there.
I feel like
it's ridiculous.
Apple ASMR.
They got infrared sensors,
infrared
lidar,
is what plants
and they
crave.
have 2.
Yeah.
They have 2 chips in there. One's like your normal M2 MacBook Pro chip, but they built a new chip called the R1 for real-time signal processing for all this stuff. And so they make it, somebody I was talking to, smart guy, he was like, wait, the Apple Vision isn't just a piece of glass and you can see through it? He actually thought what they're trying to make you believe, which is that it's a piece of glass, right? And it's clear, and like the only things that you get that render are like additive, and the rest of it's actually clear and you see through it. I was like, you really thought? I was amazed.
All right, so can I agree with all that.
Okay. No. Gotta finish. So the HCI here is the way the eye tracking and the pinching or the tapping of the fingers together. So apparently this is like magical. Like it's so low latency, first of all, that like the selection, you just look and then you tap. Wherever the heck your hand is, doesn't matter. You can just tap and you can swipe. You can do kind of multi-touch, but you just look. It's trip.
So
that
I don't like it.
I mean,
well, it is. It does open a deeper opportunity for dystopian futures.
Well, okay. So, but pragmatically,
we're already there.
So pragmatically, though, how do you imagine this would change, like how you work? Because I think that's like because it's the price point is way too high for it to be like a normal consumption thing, unless people are subsidizing it.
Not in 2025. The Chinese rumor mills are already pushing out.
But we'll see. I mean,
in 2025, there will be a lower cost Apple Vision.
Maybe. But right now, certainly, like it'll be like an expert
but the Chinese
tool.
Rumor mills are very reliable. No. Have you been to MacRumors.com?
Clearly, I have not as much as you have.
It's an industry, dude. Chinese workers in Foxconn, they get paid.
I believe you, but okay. So I'm saying right now it's a limited run of people, and so it will be a specialist tool, almost certainly. And then
shout out
to
Josh.
Who's going to
buy me the goggles?
Yes, I'm like, this is your opportunity to pitch to your boss why you need these goggles to work on Urbit specifically. That's what you need to explain to me.
Well, it's because if we want, like, Urbit is supposed to be space age computing, but also traditional.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's supposed to be the very latest. Like, we should be able to benefit from like all of the best things on Earth, but in our own like way that we own and just like customize and actually private and secure and all that.
I mean, using an Urbit on this thing,
like,
if there was some straightforward way to do like old computer content in this, that's like, of course. But I just mean more like what kind of like patterns.
Well, they already have web browsers.
Yeah, like what kind of, I mean, because you just use it in the, I mean, that's like whatever. So I'm like, what would this pattern be like unique? Does that make sense? Like why working in VR be an interesting thing beyond just like not getting off your couch / toilet?
Well, because I mean, I
was
will
an
like
Idiocracy
basically
reference.
Family program.
Right, Idiocracy, their lounge chairs are just toilets. That's like basically what I'm talking about. Yeah. So okay, so besides that, dream with me here. What explain to me how this would be superior?
Okay. Oh, having a spatial computing
Why would that
device?
be better for like a developer experience specifically?
Oh, well, you don't have to. Have you ever seen like a day trader's desk?
Yeah, or like, I mean, sort of. I've seen.
They often have desks that have matrices of 6 to 9 screens,
monitors,
all held up by like very advanced, very like, crazy like monitor arm grids. You don't need that anymore.
Okay.
Like,
so the day trader market sewn up. I got it. That's good. That's actually good.
Or just somebody who uses multiple monitors. Like, I use a single monitor right now, but it's because it's a hassle. It's like, if I could just
Infinite
have that,
monitors?
boom, that opens up a whole
But
thing.
okay, so to that end though, it seems like the
You can still use a keyboard if you
But it-
want, or you can do a
how many tabs do you have open? Yeah,
me.
like Chrome tabs generally.
I'm actually a fairly orderly person. I'm not one of those like thrive in chaos
Yeah.
types. Like I like to reduce clutter, stuff like that. So I actually use the Arc browser. Have you tried
No,
this
but you've
out?
told me about it before.
It's pretty cool. I could share my screen.
No, please don't. You don't.
But
it's too intimate.
I'll narrate as I share my screen here.
No. But what I was gonna say,
Can you see?
what I was gonna say is like there is like just infinite desk is not necessarily positive. It doesn't mean you're gonna work.
No.
More. Whatever. It's just an observation.
It just opens up possibilities. It's just like we want to see computers be more human, more like natural, right? More like present. And so like
some of that Indian
the real
stuff is
compelling device here.
It's still in you. You want to be like mindfully computing. You do want to mindfully compute.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah. Like that's why people are like lots of Urbit people like they want e-ink displays and stuff that they can use outside. It's like sick. Yeah, sweet, me too. And like the real compelling device is like don't look at like what the Apple Vision Pro is today. Look at what it's going to be in 5 years, 10 years. I'm sure they're working on technology to actually make it so when a pixel is off or one of the diodes is off, that the glass is clear. So literally they're going to have probably glasses at some point where you can have additive sort of renders and you can look at people as a normal human being and,
I mean,
I think the sort of the, I don't want to say the only, because I know nothing about this, but the compelling part to me is sort of like the ergonomic argument.
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of, that is interesting.
You mean like
to me.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Sorry,
because
what is the
I'm an ergonomics
He's Ergomax.
like enthusiast.
Do you have like mall walker shoes? Please stop getting up. It's very...
I'm going ahead and stand up right now. You got to see this.
This is an audio first podcast. You cannot just whatever you're trying.
It's all right. I'll describe everything. Okay.
So he's gone
ergonomics
from
are so important.
A sitting posture to now a standing posture.
So while he's
I'm like a tall
faffing about with his setup,
you see this thing?
The floor.
See this?
Oh,
I got a split ergonomic keyboard with a trackball in the middle.
So this man is an ergo. He's an ergo.
Check
master.
this out.
He's an ergo. Wow.
Look at this.
what?
You can walk
that?
while standing.
Okay.
It's a
Rosla
board.
Tanner,
It's
can
the
you please
latest
explain to
and
me what the
crazy
ergonomic
trip boards.
argument is for VR goggles? Because I don't really understand what you're talking
I mean, I don't. So I didn't know. I'm just basing this off of this conversation.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like Matt was mentioning sort of like gestures and an organic, like more seamless, more human experience. So to me, that makes sense because we're right now, we're tethered to all these like stupid bits and bobs, and that's why like our backs are bleeped and our wrists and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see that could free us up to
about.
move in a more functional way.
I agree 100%.
Right? So
I
that
agree
makes
100%.
sense.
No, and I think it's like I actually am not. To return, I'm not as mad about this as people would think. I think that the interesting thing to me is that it's like basically a design problem. What's going on?
Look at this. It's like a bunch of birch plywood strapped together as a board that can swivel.
It's just little strips that
It's
move.
trip. It's so cool.
This
Can you see
is
this?
Watch
this.
I can see this.
So it's like actually
See
that's
that?
I do
It's
like
really
that.
cool.
That's
This
just
isn't
from
we're
like
made in
a
Canada.
woodworking
We're in fidget spinner
perspective.
territory.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Dude, it's
What I was
ergonomic.
gonna say,
And it activates your brain.
what I was gonna say is that like this is basically a design question, right? Like how do you design stuff to be used in this thing? And that's an open question. It's like how to make the best iPhone apps. It took a long time to get all those like interface, like that's not really a technical question. It's like a design question. And so that's like kind of what needs to be rethought. And I'm just like a little bit like, I think that will take longer than making a dope set of glasses. Like it'll take longer to figure out how to make them like useful, if that makes sense. And I think it's like, and of course, what's interesting is that I feel like Urbit, I mean, even though all of our interface are very like normie, I think that that's a thing that at least Urbit people think about a lot, is like different interface concepts. So I think I can see it dovetailing in that way. It's just like right now.
Well, Liam is really bullish on Apple Vision from what I've heard. I haven't talked to him about it, but he wants native UI to, build for Vision Pro apps.
Which is, I mean, that would be amazing. And that would actually be a great confirmation of the native UI
honestly,
idea.
We should talk about that too, because it's like we're trying to get to Mars, right? But we're still on Earth. We still all run Macs.
Just so everyone knows, he's like doing his little like foot massager thing, and I think so while he's talking to me, he's like grooving. He's like, it's like a very odd.
It's very natural. It's very natural. So
we're trying to get to Mars.
No, the thing is like my personal opinion is that we need to just make really, really good native apps on all of the existing platforms that have won, right? And basically overthrow like the existing suite of Web 2 apps by sheer superiority. Like basically take over with like 1,000 Urbit apps, native Urbit apps that all connect to your ship. And provide like this seamless, composable, like integrated experience across them that just like dominates, what you can do on Facebook.com.
I agree. And with that, I think we should wrap this up. I want to thank you. You clearly have some orthopedic exercises you'd like to do.
Yeah, I'm going to the chiropractor right after this.
Ergomaxing is a full-time job. I understand. But I just wanted to thank you for coming and telling us about all the event log stuff and some of your maximalist VR ideas, and that'll be good too. But
it's not VR.
Sorry, spatial computing. I didn't mean to.
Spatial
computing.
You gotta remember this.
So if anyone is listening right now, is interested in kind of like where you hang out, your content, where can they find you? Pump your bags.
I'm always in the Gather Town. So we have a Gather Town in the Urbit world, but you can DM me or, all the normal places.
Good. You don't have like a SoundCloud you want to promote or like no? GoFundMe?
See.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Well, thanks again. It's been fun. Raza, do you have any final questions, clothing thoughts, or anything?
I think we covered everything.
All right.
I thought we were just getting started.
Now we switch into the behind the scenes.
I mean, we could go for another 2 hours probably.
I'm pro Maxing.
Now we're getting into the real juicy R&D.
All right.
Yeah.
Great talking to you, man. Talk to you soon.